this is a very special episode. Yeah, happy holidays, of course, to everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. This is going to be our last webinar of the year, if I'm correct, Jay.
You are correct. This is
and it's fitting because we have our original team together for the HJ Free webinar series. We have our dear friend Amy Myers joining us. So thanks so much, Amy, for coming. And this is going to be fun.
And I'm not going to try to recite it. So, Amy, what's your new title?
Yeah.
Big Medicine now. She was Big Medicine before, but now she's Big Medicine. So
it's Vice President Fundraising and Community Engagement.
Okay, cool. That's actually it's easier than your last one.
It was, because before it was like Senior National Director.
It was Worldwide International Director of.
Yeah. No joke.
Congratulations, by the way. So
that's amazing.
Very well.
That's amazing.
Very well deserved.
I wanted to write it down just so I can memorize it.
and I do. All-Star Amy's right, and we're so glad you could be here because Amy, we did something kind of different. We reached out to all across and asked for questions, and
we got a bunch of them.
Right here for everybody. We've got a bunch of them, and so we're going to play a little game today. And so, anything that comes up, normally we do this, but I think there's some really great questions. I read through these.
For sure.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of read the question. Trevor's going to read the question.
Moderate a little bit.
Either Trevor, myself, Amy, we're going to take it. We may all jump on it, but we're going to put a timer up so that way we can get through to all of them because we've got a lot and they're really good. So we're going to get
15, 20
because we just think this is a really good way to end the year because, gosh, 22 was fantastic. We know people raise more money than we've ever seen them raise, and I'm going to sneeze here in a minute. And, just so many new things we learned, so many things that were tried and done that were some things tried and true, some things were different. And I think that's really a good time to do this and end it up. So if you're watching here live, you joined us, make sure you stay to the end and win because we're going to give away a trip.
We're going to give away, something very special. Yeah, it's going to be.
We're going to give away something. So
we got some stuff. We got all sorts of cool options. Episode 95. So thanks everyone once again for coming. If there are any questions that you have, maybe that you didn't submit on the page pre-webinar, just let us know. Q&A function at the bottom, chat feature on the side. If you have some feedback, we're open to all of that. So we're enthusiastic.
We're not taking any feedback today.
No, okay. Sorry. All right, fill up your coffee cups.
Because if you go over time, you have to take a drink.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, listen. We'll get right to it. How's that sound? I'm just gonna grab one, Jay. I don't have any particular order, if that's okay. One caught my attention. So how to best practice to motivate your board members?
Shoot them.
Right.
Just sacrifice one of them, and the rest of them will get in line.
Both of you have a lot of experience with this.
Yeah. You want to go? You want to take it, Amy?
Sure, I'll jump in. I think there's a couple of things. One, I think boards are motivated by being held accountable, so I think that's huge. And I also think that it's super, super important to not always, talk shop, but to always take them back to the mission and keep the mission piece of it on the forefront. And that should motivate them if you have the right board members.
Beautiful. And there's a follow-up to that about setting deadlines with board members.
I want to add something to that real quick. Here's one of the things I think that we miss a lot. Sometimes because we see these boards and they're powerful, they're lawyers and doctors and all these different professions and the smart people and all that stuff. We need to help them and tell them what to do. Sincerely, when you set a plan up and you say, hey, we're going to call everybody and we're going to make these phone calls and we're going to, we need everybody to make 3 phone calls this week, 3 phone calls next week. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to set up, and give them a plan. They can typically execute that, but if you sit there and say, hey, we just need to raise more money, they're looking at you because you're the expert.
You have to think for them. I say that all the time. You have to think for them.
They're an expert in their field. You're the expert in the fundraising world. And so that's why you got to be ready to lead.
Marry the two. Yeah. Awesome.
What was the next one, brother?
Well, there was a follow-up one about just setting deadlines with board members and things of that nature, and volunteers, committees, things like that, setting deadlines, best practices for that. I think that I think we touched on that a little bit, just having parameters set in place or metrics
Set
set in
deadlines
place.
and then send a recap with those deadlines in the recap and let them know that you're going to follow up.
And get agreement while you're in the board meeting, while you're in the meeting with all of the people. Say, hey, who here is everybody here? Can you make sure that we can all get this done by December 31st? Okay, we all agree we could.
Yeah.
Everybody can get that done. Okay, cool. So everybody's in agreement. Trevor, Jason, Amy, everybody's on. Okay, cool. We're going to set that as the deadline. And when you do that, that gets them engaged. If you just throw one out there, they're like, nah, I got stuff to do. So.
I love that. I think that's awesome. Let's see here. Another follow-up to that, I suppose, and we'll get the board member, committee member stuff out of the way. How to get rid of a board member who isn't contributing to the organization? What's the best way to go about that?
I mean, my answer is you just have a conversation with them and tell them straight up it's not a good fit, and see if there's a different fit for them. And you may do it in steps. You may have your first meeting where you have a conversation and tell them that they're not really meeting those expectations, and maybe give them some guidance on how they can meet the expectations. And then if they don't, you have to help them out the door nicely.
Have an uncomfortable conversation.
Yep.
That's what you have to preface it with, I think. We need to have an uncomfortable conversation.
How many times have you had to do that, Amy, in your tenure?
I mean, there's two that stick in my mind. I mean, it's more, but there were two that I just really distinctly remember being very uncomfortable and dreaded the conversations. But I mean, ultimately, people know when they're not being successful, and they know when they're not actually contributing. So I mean, hopefully when you have that uncomfortable conversation, you're not telling them anything they didn't already know, really.
That makes a lot of sense.
And ultimately, it's what's best for your organization. I mean, I don't want to, it's not about feelings. It's about your organization and what's best for your group.
Yep.
I've been on the receiving end of one of those conversations.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I was a communications chair for a board of an organization, and I wasn't doing my job. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, I was not executing the way I was supposed to be, and I was saying all the right things. And I had the president and the incoming president get on a call with me, and they said, "Hey, man, we got to talk." And everybody else is, punching their ticket and getting everything done, and you're holding it up. And if you don't get it done, let us know if you can't, because we need to get something done. I said, and boy, you talk about, I was like, I felt I was called on the carpet. I mean, flat out. And, it's hard for me to even sit here and just tell you all that. But the reality is it lit a fire under me. I got it done, and we knocked it out of the park. But I was the one holding everything up. And that's what they did. They shared it with me. So believe me, your peers have a lot of power in that regard. So if you need to talk, maybe you're the executive director or something like that, and you've got somebody you got to get off, it maybe you go talk to the president, other key board member, somebody, and maybe they have that talk. So
makes total sense. Okay, awesome. Well, we'll get the board members behind behind us. We'll get the board conversation behind us. I'm going to go something a little bit more lighthearted. And it was a random question, actually. How do we find more donors? It's kind of a 30,000 foot view question, but how do we what's the best way when you're just like, hey, we just need to get more donors in the room, more donors in general? How do we find more donors? What do you think, Jay?
People exercise.
Okay, cool. Embellish.
Do the people exercise. Get everybody that have them pull their phones out, start down the list and say, we're looking for people that may want to be part of our organization. You start writing their names up on the board, and you put them up there. And then you go down the list and you say, can they write a check for $10,000 and not miss it? Can they fill a table with people that will come and spend money? Do they have special access to something?
Yeah,
that would be beneficial. And then who's going to go ask them. That's how you do it. It's absolutely an exercise. To me, it's one of the most powerful exercises I've seen it done with a lot of organizations, and it works because
awesome.
You can say, well, we're gonna do 2 social media posts on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
for every week, and that'll
Mhm.
that'll really get the engagement up.
It's pretty passive.
It's about
Yeah.
who. It's not what you know; it's who you know, and
Yeah.
that's
I love
how.
that.
Yeah, we have an exercise. I think we actually have it written down that you use with your boards and your committees, and it's exactly that. It's
Mhm.
who are the top 10, who are the last 10 people with an executive title that you texted, who are, and then going through who do you write the biggest pay or checks to, who does your
Right.
company write the biggest checks to,
Like
and
vendors
go through.
and
Yep.
partners. Yep. I remember
Yep.
you talking about this.
It
Yep.
goes back to that, like thinking for them. You have to prod them and help them make their list, and
Yeah.
then take it a step further and have them right then and there start making phone calls.
But
Well, if
that's
you sit
okay.
in a board
That's
meeting
awesome.
or a committee meeting and everybody sits around saying, "Man, I wish we could think about more donors," nobody's going to think of a name, or they think of somebody that the richest guy in town or the richest lady in town that nobody has a connection to.
Mm-hmm.
When you pull your phone out and you look at your contacts, you start scrolling through, or you go through the last 10 people that you texted, or the last 10 people that you talked to.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually your sphere of influence. And
Mhm,
there's going to
mhm.
be some people in there that you can connect, and they can connect other people, and they can connect, because that's what all the successful fundraising I've ever seen in my life that were
Mhm.
really, really good.
Mhm.
Amy's model runs off of this. It is
Yep.
about connections.
Yep.
And wouldn't you agree? It's about getting people that you connect, because they won't connect with your mission until they connect with you, and you
Okay.
connect. So it's going to be saying, I get Amy to come because I invite her to come to an event. Well, then she comes because of me, and then she listens to the mission. She goes, oh wow, I didn't know they did this. This is something important to me, and they connect to the mission, and that's how you bring them into the fold.
I love that. Okay, that's something that we'll share as a note, so to speak, or like a deck. Amy, would you prefer that as opposed to just verbalizing it?
I have it like on a slide that I use in a PowerPoint training, so I can
Perfect.
just
Okay.
send you that as an attachment.
Awesome. And we're really hopefully nudging folks to do that with every encounter they have with their board, with their committee, when they're starting out planning an event. Jason, like I said, calls it the people exercise. Works famously. You got to use the phone, got to use the network, and I think that's fantastic. I had a question. How do you manage? What's the best way, once you establish those relationships, to manage those relationships and retain those relationships? Best way that you've seen?
I mean, I think it's just touch points. It's having building the relationship, and on a regular, set up a plan,
Mhm.
whether it's you're going to touch base with them once a month or once a quarter or whatever it is, and
Mhm.
make sure that you don't want to just reach out to your donors and committee members when it's time to ask them for money. You want to build the relationship in between. So having that plan in place as to, 1 month it might be an update on your organization. The next month it might be, a feel good story. The next month it might just be how's things going, just checking in, whatever. But really it's all about the communication and building the relationship year round. It's year round. That's the key.
Awesome.
Somebody asked me this a while back, and I kind of pulled this out of my back pocket just because they were looking for some action steps, and I said, pick up your phone and call your top 10 donors. Just call them. Don't ask them for a nickel. Just say, hey, I just wanted to check in with you, tell you how much we appreciate you, let you know, tell them a success story, and just say, we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much.
I love that.
Then take your next 20. If you were lining all your donors up, call the top first 10, send a text message to the next 20, and then send everybody else an email doing the same thing. I said, you reach that personal contact and connection. And, if you want to call 20 people, call 20 people. I think you should call as many as you can. And I know there's some organizations have thousands of donors, so it's, the staff can't quite do it. But that's really a strong thing. Lisa, thank you for bringing that, saying that. They're surprised because they know you're typically calling to ask money. And when you call them and don't ask for money,
huge.
And you just tell them saying, thank you.
Yeah.
That really connects them. They remember. I'm telling
you're gaining a lot of good favor, a lot of
They
equity,
would-
actually, for lack
you
of a
think
better
they don't
term.
know, they don't remember? They do. I promise you.
Yep. Yeah, it's all about people. Jason, you said something. You said something yesterday, and I put an exclamation point at the end of it about how much it's meant to me that you've been pushing this agenda and this narrative about the most valuable thing that you can give people. We were talking about your staff, but this goes for anyone. This goes for the supporters and donors and folks that are important to your mission, your organization. You fill in the blank, whatever moniker you want to use, whatever you're doing, running a business or anything. The most important thing that you can give people is your time. And it sounds so simple. And the reason why I struggle with it is because I think I move really, really quick, and I think everyone's happy and no news is good news. And that's not a good place to operate from. You know what I mean? So be, disciplining yourself to make those phone calls and touch people, with a text, a phone call, a coffee, a lunch, what have you, goes an exceptionally long way. Right. So.
Well, nobody wants to be treated as an ATM.
That's a great point.
I mean, nobody wants to be treated, the only time you ever come to me and talk to me, you want money.
Yeah,
it's not a transactional relationship.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. And so it's not a relationship. It's just, I don't have a relationship with an ATM. It's just a device. I just get money out of it. There's no emotion, no nothing. I just want my money unless it doesn't give me money. And then why didn't you give me some money? And I think that we forget that people, and sometimes we think that because, especially people that have significant capacity to give, we think they don't need us and they're not looking for it. Well, the reality is they probably need it more so because they don't get it. Everybody's always with their hand out. Everybody's always looking for them. And, so it's a surprise to them a lot of times when they do it. When you do say, hey, I don't need anything. I just want to call and check in, see how things are going, let you know we appreciate you.
This will kind of lend itself well to the next question I was going to ask, which was, or that was submitted. What's the best post-campaign or post-event etiquette that you've utilized as far as reaching out to folks that were important to the mission, important to the event, important to the campaign, and I guess thanking them, obviously an act of gratitude, things of that nature. What are some of the best things that you've seen, best etiquette practices? Both of you, please.
So we do several things. One, I think it's super important to do a debrief post-mortem with your committee to get feedback and thank them personally.
Okay.
We do a very nice email to everybody that attended that includes, event specific information, submission information, all that.
Success
story. The success of the story. And then we break our donors into categories based on the event. And when I say categories, it's really monetary donation values.
Yeah, right. Which
and
makes
then
sense.
it is, if it's somebody that donated, whatever you put your limit, $5,000 or more, it's a personal phone call and a thank you to hopefully start building a relationship to take that donor to the next level. And then, maybe your 1,000 to 5,000, they get an individual. So, I mean, I just think that it's whatever works, but it's definitely a communication. And I do think that you need to look at the different levels of donors and have a plan, a different plan for each one.
I love that.
This is just one little thing that somebody did that I hadn't seen anybody else do. And it took some effort. So the donor statements, the donation statements for what that they gave, they had those printed out, wrote an individual note on it for that person. I mean, it was a significant deal. If it was like $1,000 or more, they would just write a note. And it was just, wow, thank you so much. It just means, and they just personalized it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
They took the time to personalize it. It wasn't just this thing. And this was something I received, and I thought it was very, very thoughtful that they took the time and effort to do that. So it was just something I thought was cool.
I think that's awesome. I think that personal touch is never a bad thing, right? We keep on saying that. So that's obviously a theme. Huge. Okay, next one. Underwriting ideas. Good underwriting ideas for galas. That was a question. What are some good underwriting ideas for galas?
I know Jason and I are probably going to say the same thing. Like, everything and anything can be
That's what I
underwritten.
was going to say.
Totally.
Done.
We've said that.
Everything.
We've said that 50 times on this webinar.
It does. I mean, you can underwrite the bathroom stalls, I think. I mean, but like, you know, the most common ones obviously are, you know, a cocktail reception underwriter, your dinner underwriter, your silent auction underwriter, your live auction underwriter, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Make a list of everything that costs you money and everything that doesn't cost you money that's there. Just because it doesn't cost you money doesn't mean you can't underwrite it. We talked about the bathrooms. I mean, we just got so many stories, and it's so silly. You go, well, why would somebody do that? When there's guess what, the one room or the two rooms or however it works out that everybody visits. It's right there, and everybody walks past it. It's the highest trafficked piece other than the bar that you're going to see. You know, the check-in, check-out. There's only so many, you know, you can do those. But everything can be, whether it costs money. And I would say this, and I use this for example with somebody the other day. I was a coaching call. Make money on everything. If it costs you $1,000 and you're getting it underwritten, underwrite it for $2,000 or, you know, whatever that number is.
I was just going to say, you have to be very thoughtful at your pricing. Yeah, be smart about your pricing. You don't want to let somebody underwrite, you know, your cocktail reception for $5,000 when the cocktail reception is going to cost you much more than that, and somebody else gets to underwrite the bathroom stall and it costs them $25,000. You know, like, be very thoughtful at what your underwriting is. But yes, sell it all. Have
you ever gotten in a situation, Amy, where you had multiple sponsors underwrite one themed thing, like the AV you had presented by Boom Boom, and they're 5,000 from them, 5,000 from them? Okay, cool.
Unless we list it on our sales brochure as exclusive, we can sell the heck out of it. And we've been in situations, especially golf outings, I feel like a lot of the golf outings with underwriting, where I mean, we sell out of everything on the sales brochure, and then people still want to participate. So we kind of just start making stuff up.
Yeah, no, I love it. Get creative.
Well, that's why I say, and just because you have it on, maybe you don't sell it, but you've got options on there that people are going to see, and there's going to be something that triggers with somebody that goes, you know, I'm going to buy a table, but I want to underwrite the party. I want
the reception or whatever.
The reception. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Let's do something, because, you know, it's back to the thing. People that have capacity to give are looking. You know, they've got money. That's not an issue. It's not like they've got to go find it. It's just if you can put something, because they can go spend, you know, write $100,000 check for a set of earrings.
Yeah.
But if you put this under, they go put it, you know, be part of the party. They're like, yeah, heck yeah, let's do this. This would be awesome.
Yeah. So be creative. And you always say, Jay, and I'm assuming, Amy, you agree with this because from experience and just seeing this happen, it's a negotiation. So if you charge $10,000 for it and someone says, I want to give you $5,000 or yada, 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 you can find yourself some common ground and bring more folks involved and things of that nature. So I think there's all sorts of different really cool options, but you have to be open-minded, correct? I mean, that would be a prerequisite for all that. So
yeah, I think, you know, when it comes to underwriting, you have some flexibility and be thoughtful. Don't say, well, somebody goes, hey, look, I'll write, and we got to move on to questions, but you don't want to say, okay, we're going to do the AV and it's $10,000. Well, how many tables do I get with that? Well, you don't get any tables with it. Yeah,
I love that. Don't be afraid to say no, right? And Amy, would you reiterate that?
What happens is somebody goes and they give a sponsorship away, but the tables, you know, are $5,000.
Yeah.
And then, so you gave them a $5,000 table plus the sponsorship. You look at your numbers and your net, you know, your profit goes way down to nothing.
Match. Yeah.
Or zero. So
keep that in mind. Keep that.
We sometimes will put
a table with that. Yeah.
We will, but whatever the level was going to be, we then take the table and we have a formula that we use based on what that costs what it's going to cost us per person to, you know, for food and alcohol, and take that table. And then we typically triple it, double to triple, depending on the event. And so then that additional would be added into it. So we then in turn, not only make money off the underwriting, we're giving them a table of hopefully people that will come and spend money the night of the event, and we're doubling or tripling what it's going to cost us. So we're actually making money off their table sale as well, if that makes sense.
I think that's part of the negotiation too, is if I sit there and go, hey, Trevor, yeah, I'll give you a table, but I need you and Shelby to bring your rich friends. I need you to fill this thing up. Go get your banker buddy that you go run with, go get your other buddy that runs the deal. Bring them in here because we need to raise some money.
Yep.
And
well, that was going to be my follow-up question. Actually, it's so funny you brought that up. So how do you, when you are selling those tables, or let's just say you're selling the sponsorship, the underwriting opportunity, and a table, you built it all in. How do you have that conversation, Amy, with someone? Maybe you've never even met this person before, or maybe you've only spoken to them once, but you don't want the CEO of the bank to bring the tellers. No, once again, I'm just using that as an example. There's nothing wrong with tellers.
Well, it's a good example.
It's a great example. My mom was a teller, so I don't have any problem with them. But we want folks with the capacity in the room. How do you have that conversation with someone that is going to be the head of that table, so to speak, the person that bought the table, quite frankly? How do you have that conversation with them to get them to bring their friends with capacity or network?
I mean, here, I think it goes back to that. It's a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation. If you don't know them, if you know them, it's a much easier conversation. But here again, I think you just have to be blunt and say, this is a fundraising event, and we would like people in the room that are going to support our mission and are going to spend money. It's not a party. It's not a party for the bank to bring their people to come and eat and drink for free. And I mean, we call it we want bidders, not eaters conversation. We need bidders in the room, not eaters.
Well, and I think that you have that conversation to say, Mrs. Bank President, are you and your husband going to come? I want to make sure you guys are coming. You're going to bring some of your rich friends, so that way you can, some of your bank board members, so they can spend some money, because we really need.
Yeah.
Because
would you even go so far as to do your homework about who's on their board and ask them and prod them that way and say, hey, could you bring? I just think
that it's because if they're saying, well, I'm not so sure that I'm going to be able to make that happen. Well, then maybe an underwriting opportunity may be a better fit.
Yeah.
Than taking that table. Let's use that table.
Then you'll know.
And sell somebody else. Yeah, I think that's just
through communication. You'll know which direction to go. I think that's really smart.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, in my opinion, best case scenario is you have a committee that is running your gala, and they're essentially the ones selling these sponsorships and table sales, and they have the conversation because it's their connections, it's their network, and so it's a much easier conversation for them to have, and it's more of that peer-to-peer conversation versus the nonprofit person that's telling me to come bring people to spend money. So I mean, in a perfect scenario, you aren't having that conversation as the employee. Your committee has that conversation. Now you have that conversation to somewhat train your committee how to have that conversation, whatever. Perfect. But it's their network, so they should be able to have that conversation and be just like Jason said. Say, hey,
bring the board.
I want to make sure you're coming and bring your rich friends. They can say that.
And if you've got somebody that you go to the event and somebody the year before they were sponsored and nobody showed up, or maybe one, I was at one and only one person from the organization showed up, him and his spouse.
Yeah.
And when I would go back and say to that organization to say, okay, next year when you go talk to them for your next event, your next fundraiser, say, I noticed we only had, Joe and his wife showed up. Maybe, if you guys, if it's if you've got date issues or something, we want your participation, but maybe we could do something to be better. How about this? Why don't we put you as the underwriter for the audio visual, because it's $10,000 too.
Yeah.
And so you get that, and you may let them off the hook.
Yep.
Because I had a guy that worked for a public utility company, and he said, I'm having to go to 14 events a year. I don't want to buy a table.
Yeah, I don't want.
He said, I want to give money. I have to.
Yeah.
He said, we got to be in the community, but I don't want to buy a table because I've got to go find 8 people to go.
Totally. Yep.
And so
having those creative underwriting and sponsorship opportunities really come in really handy.
Just because you think that nobody would pay for it, Sister Bridget just said, she had a physicians group sponsor the bathrooms.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to put it out there, because people will do it. They're looking for ways.
Put it on paper and show them.
And they want to help your mission. The end of the deal. That's what it's about. It's not about if you make it transactional.
Yeah.
If you make it transactional, that's what it's going to be as a transaction. If you make it relational and emotional, then it becomes about your mission. And mission drive is what you've got to bring everything back to.
I love it.
No matter what you're doing.
I think there's something about that catches people's attention about these new unique sponsorship and underwriting opportunities that they haven't seen before, and it will catch their attention because it interrupts the loop psychologically. I think it's actually a really, really great way to look at it, because it does, and it's been proven to us time and time again. So thanks for sharing, Sister Bridget. It's good to hear from you too, by the way. So we talked about this, and we were talking about it, how you don't want to use social media for the work that you could be doing personally on your phone, by picking up the phone, reaching out to people, reaching out to your network, doing the people exercise. However, there was a social media question, and Amy, I'd like to hear it from you. What is the, did I get rid of it? Pardon me. What's the best way to use social media, or do you even advise using social media to advertise? What's the most impactful way that you can use social media platforms to advertise your event, to advertise the mission, obviously the event, as a secondary focus?
I mean, I'll be honest, we have not had a ton of luck advertising an event on social media.
Yeah.
And when I say that, we don't, if we post on the local, Facebook page or whatever, we don't have people reaching out saying, oh, I want to buy a sponsorship. So we utilize our social media more as a recognition piece to be able to tag companies that are big sponsors.
You promise that, as a matter of fact, right? With the sponsors.
We do
a
lot of times. And a lot of companies and it's free, and you know what I mean? And it's easy. And a lot of companies, they want Muscular Dystrophy Association tagging them in Twitter or Facebook or whatever, social media. But so I would say that we, and it's probably very different across organizations, but
I would assume so.
We utilize it more as a recognition platform than we do a sales platform.
Not to sell tickets. You really use it as a number one driver to sell tickets. Yeah. Gotcha.
I mean, I'm not saying we haven't tried, but we just have not been successful like that, because ultimately, I mean, with the galas and stuff, it just goes back to your committee and who and who your donors are. Most organizations are not going to, pick up a new donor or a new sponsor just because they saw it on social media. I mean, it goes back to the relationships and the who.
My opinion of social media, I mean, it can't, hey, listen, everyone who's listening, watching currently, and will watch later, hey, if it works for you, fantastic. Why fix it if it's not broken type scenario? I view, if you have an organization, it's so funny because my mom works for the United Way here locally. It's a really big United Way office, and they handle a huge area. And they've always had a social media person. And I'm like wondering, what does that have to do with? And I thought, I just from afar, from watching, I think the best use of their social media coordinator or designer and content creator was just to make just always show folks what they were doing to advance the mission, right? How they were helping people locally. They handled all the fire relief. I'm in far northern California, where every year some area gets ravaged by fire, wildfires, forest fires. And so they handle all the relief efforts for getting folks back on their feet and in the homes and things like that. So I thought that was always going to be the best use for a social media, your social media platforms would be just, how are you advancing the mission? What are you doing right now? Jason always says, tell folks, what have you done? What are you doing right now? What do you plan on doing? I think you can use social for that, right? That's my opinion.
I'm looking for this organization, and because I want to make sure I said, I was going to credit them and say the name right.
Yeah.
They have, I follow quite a few,
me too.
Instagram, for example, I follow quite a few organizations, and pretty much what I would say, the reason that social media doesn't work, because most everybody's social media, they have a lame game.
Sure.
I'm just going to call it like
they're not. It's not sharp. It's not sharp.
It sucks. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, it just sucks.
Well, it's a tough nut to crack. It's a real. It's hard.
Really,
social media is hard. I totally get it.
Is because
content creation's hard.
They don't frequency number two, and we're working on our social media game all the time.
Yeah.
They don't have enough frequency. Putting one post on Facebook a week,
that's not going to cut.
It's not social media content.
Yeah.
Putting one on Instagram, because first of all, we're in the TikTokification of social media has happened. Whatever you think of TikTok, I don't personally use TikTok, but that deal of scroll and seeing everything's gotten so fast. I saw a deal the other day that YouTube Shorts is so underserved. There's a huge market. People are watching it, but there's not enough
videos.
Not enough videos for it.
Yeah.
And it's Newbility something, but this group of they take this one thing that a group that I think does really well, and they do exactly what you said, Trevor. They just show the kids that they help. They help kids that were either born or they've had an amputation. They don't have all their limbs. It's just something, and they show them doing sports, and they're with coaches, and they just show their stuff. They're not asking you for something. They're not.
No, I think that's the best use for it. Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're constantly showing what they're doing, what their mission is, and they're showing the success. They've got a lot of content because they have camps with kids. So they got people out there videoing, taking pictures, and they just use that, chop it all up, and they just crank it out the content. And that seems, of all the ones that I see, that seems to be, because going out there and saying, well, hey, it's Saturday. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope it's sunny in your world. If you'd like to donate to our event tonight, click here.
I'm of the opinion that
because by the time you got the third word, they've scrolled past it.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion that you don't sell tickets on social media and use that as your number one driving force for that. I really like Lisa. Lisa had a really cool point about scripted messaging for committees to share on their platforms. You know what's cool, Lisa, about that is that, and I've witnessed this firsthand. I guess now, just because of how mature social media is at this point, do y'all have someone in your community that like you see at these events or has capacity that has like 50,000 followers, or whatnot, or a big reach, and they can cast a very wide net? Well, if they're on the committee and they have 50,000 followers or 250,000 followers, and you want them to do a message about the event, I think that's a great utilization of your time and efforts. So definitely consider that. And you know what? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that's a question that you ask the committee and the board, like, hey, are you all really active on social? Because you never know if there's going to be like an entrepreneur that's built 3 businesses and had some multi-million-dollar exits, and they have 1 million Twitter followers and they're on your committee. Well, I think you should utilize that. I think that's a tool, and I think that's attention, and it's free. Right? Like what Amy said. I think it's free to do that.
Just like what's happened with this question. Yeah. I think people spend a lot of time on social media trying to figure out how to make it do stuff.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. And they'd be better off picking up the phone and just calling people.
You're not wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Like Lisa said, the personal ask, I think that's huge. Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome. Relationships are a superpower. Relationships are a superpower. Okay. This is a good one.
I'm going to go back to using the timer to keep us on track.
Sorry. To print or not to print invitations to your gala? That was a listener submitted question. Do you believe in printing or not printing invitations to the gala?
I say print.
We have print for one.
I say it depends on the event. We have several that we print. We have some that it's always just been like an email invite or an invite from the committee members. So
okay.
I don't know that I would say I like the printed, like our bigger, I don't want to say nicer, but the bigger, nicer events. Yeah. Yes. Definite print. Stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's all the above because, some people are because it all depends on who the planner is. It could be, my wife, if you send a written invitation, she's got it on the calendar, knows what's going on, RSVPs, gets it all lined up and done. If you send me an email, I may not get it to her. She's the social planner. So you got to email, text, call, send a carrier pigeon and send a printed invitation.
Follow-up question from Becky. On printed invitations, do you ask for a printed RSVP like a wedding, or do you direct them to a website where they can just simply click an RSVP?
We do printed RSVPs for most of ours. And we actually, the ideal situation is the table captain or whoever bought the table sends their RSVP with their 8 guests. So it's all in one place and we have that. We did try the website, click a link, whatever, and it just
kind of flopped.
It didn't work as well. And we've really tried to get in a better place with having names and donors or names and phone numbers before the event versus John Smith is bringing 8 people, TBD, guest of. Like we've tried to get away from that and have actual guest names and phone numbers so that we can open the auction ahead of time, send messaging through the software
Mhm.
We don't do, we've gotten away from checking in at the events, because if we have everything ahead of time, we just have people that look at their phones, say, there's your table number, there's your bidder number, go enjoy. So
Say that
I
again.
like the written.
Talk to us about getting rid of check-in at events. Say that again.
So we've gone to what we call contactless check-in.
Wow. Yeah.
And essentially we are gathering, and it's been a process, but I mean, even our biggest gala with over 600 people everybody was registered ahead of time. We sent them the links so they could go in and put their credit card, start viewing the auction items. So when they got to the event, we had volunteers that basically said, did you receive the link? They showed it on the phone, and you just go. And then we have their bidder numbers are obviously on their phone through the software, but we put their bidder cards on their table.
Okay.
And then, so they don't have to carry them around. They need them for the mission drive. They don't need them in the cocktail reception. So they just go to their table and it's all there.
Awesome. Ooh, good software feedback. That's good. I love it. I got one that's a little more, we're not going to end on this one, but this is interesting. Once again, another a listener submitted question. Any tips on talking to an event attendee donor who wants to back out of a purchase? They didn't know what they were buying. Maybe they had too much to drink. They regret bidding on so high on something, or they were unhappy with the experience and they want to retract the contribution. Any tips on talking to an event attendee? And I suppose there's multiple layers of this. There's the night of, and then there's the follow-up, maybe 72 hours after, right? When they've been in contact with the person that provided the trip or whatever the item might be. What do you think of that conversation?
I mean, I'm dealing with one right now, and
oh yeah,
I hate to say it, we're giving them a refund because sometimes, an unhappy donor can cause a lot of ruckus that you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do think it's important. Number one, you should always have in writing somewhere, and I think most auctioneers will tell you this, you should have in writing kind of that statement that, like, all purchases are final. And if for some reason you change your mind, your purchase becomes a donation.
Okay.
I'd like to hear Jason, because he was an auctioneer, and so I know he probably has had to deal with it.
Because we have every once in a while it'll come up where the client bought something. Is it what I believe? And I believe this with everything in my being. If it's transactional, they will get buyer's remorse. They'll find something cheaper and they'll decide that they don't want it. If that's how you make it about. If you make it transactional for them to buy something, you say, "Oh, this is an $8,000 trip, and you're buying it for $4,000," because we had an auctioneer say that for one of our deals, and it was not an $8,000 trip. But he said that, and so the person had some misunderstanding.
A lot of times, too many.
Here's why they didn't wind up backing out, because I said, because this is the question that I asked, because they came back to me and I said, "Did you buy it?" I said, "Did you buy this package because you were wanting a cheap trip, or did you buy this package because you wanted to help advance the mission?" They said, "I wanted to help the mission." I said, "Do you still want to back out?" And they said, "Nope, I'm in."
That's a great question.
When you make it about the mission, I've seen a $500 bottle of whiskey sell for $9,000. Well, not after the fact. Somebody doesn't come. Not one time ever have I ever seen a person come back and go, "What the heck? This was not what I bought." They knew. Don't try. You don't need it. I talked to a client the other day, and we were talking about it, and I said, I don't, and Amy and I may disagree on this. I think that if you put the value on your program, I think you're making a mistake on anything. I don't think it matters. Because if people buy something because they want to, we all walk around with an instant price checker tool in our hand. We don't need all that. So we can sit there and look at Amazon and see all the stuff. But if I'm given for the mission, if I'm in for the mission, and the auctioneer, the program has said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're raising money to send kids to camp. For every $1,000 that you spend, that's one more kid." And I'm selling something for $5,000. That's 5 kids going to camp right here. 6,000, 7,000, 7. Hey, come on, bid one more time. That's 7 kids going to camp. That kind of deal. When it's about the mission, people never back out. In my experience, people never back out. But when it's transactional, come on, guys, this is just too cheap. We're just giving this trip away. You know, it's too cheap. Somebody raise their hand. Oh, what the heck? It's cheap.
Or someone latches onto a value or what have you. Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Lisa had a follow-up question for you, Jay.
And there's sometimes it doesn't matter. You just get somebody who's just,
there's never going to be a perfect. Yeah. I mean, there's you can't bet 1,000, unfortunately, y'all. I'm sorry about that, but we've tried. Lisa, we're close. Lisa had a question. So are we not required to report values on auction items? Jason, that's for you.
Can I answer that?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Jamie. Sorry, it was part of me.
And I only say this because I know where she's going with this. So we just dealt with this. So by law, you have to report. The donor has to know the value of what they are purchasing before they make the purchase. If down the road they are going to do a tax write-off. So for example, if somebody buys an item that is fair market value of $500 and they pay $1,000, they can write off that $500.
Correct.
But by law, the only way that we can provide that information and they can write it off is if we have put the reported value, they knew the value when they made the purchase. So that is why that goes by the organization, MDA. We now have to put values of auction items for that purpose.
Okay.
So that's like an organizational decision.
I'm glad you clarified that, because I was asked, but I said, I don't think that you have to put it in the program, but that does make sense, because like on our auction software, whenever somebody does, they immediately get a receipt, and it's a donor certificate that says you bought this for $5,000, retail value is $1,000, tax deductible portion is $4,000.
Yeah,
all that stuff's put in there for what, it doesn't matter what it is.
So it goes back to Jason, like you said, if it's not if it's people that are just paying $5,000 because for a $500 bottle of alcohol, and they're not going to write off the overage because of, they did it for the mission, whatever, then you're fine. But we do have situations where there are people that want to write off that tax value.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot of events that, obviously we would love to have big check writers in all the room, but we do have some that, they're not spending significant amounts. And so they are going to write off that tax value. So we actually I had to look up the laws, and then we had to run it through our legal department. So that's what it is. So I guess I would just clarify that, like, that's an organizational
can I make
decision.
A suggestion to everybody listening to this, then anybody, whether it's recorded or whatever, don't put a big seal up there that says retail value of X. Put it down in the tiny fine print underneath the deal, with a sentence that says, for tax deductible purposes, the value of this trip is X. For tax deductible purposes, the value of this trip is X. That's it. Don't put it in.
Don't put it on. We don't put it on like.
Don't put it on the big screen before the live auction.
Yeah. Right. So like the live auction, when we're putting up there, the HGA Caribbean vacation, and we're showing the video, there is no retail price anywhere. Now the auctioneer might say, oh, this is like a $2,000 trip or whatever they say, but no, we are by no means putting it.
We want the market to dictate that value right there.
Well, I just think people will put, they'll have the description, the Caribbean all-inclusive, retail value, priceless. They'll have that stuff down there. And I'm glad you clarified that for me. But you can put that. But I would just make that, I wouldn't even put that anywhere on there. Put in the fine print. And just down there, for tax deductible purposes, the value of this trip is declared as X.
Yeah.
What that tells everybody, that's for tax deductible purposes. That's it. And then, most people are going to ignore it anyway, because you're going to have an issue that's going to come up sometimes. But anyway, okay, we got time for some more, man. Let's hit some more.
Okay. Well, we don't need to talk about software. Everyone knows the efficacy of software and stuff.
Yeah.
And, we had a question about software and how it can help you raise more money. That's pretty obvious.
I got one I'd like to hear Amy do this one.
Okay.
If you're cool with me. Out of the box silent auction package ideas. I've got some thoughts on it, but I want to hear Amy's.
What is it? Out of the box?
Silent auction.
Like silent auction?
Yeah, something like out of the box.
Something off the beaten path.
Experiences are always like a true win. And when I say experiences, like fun things, like get the fire department to agree to do a birthday party for a kid and build a little package around it with, you know, the local bakery will make the birthday cake and the pizza place will donate pizza and the kid gets to have, you know, so just
get creative.
Yeah, be creative. I mean, I know this is not unique, but honestly, like the best sellers are always like liquor baskets. Get liquor donated. Go. I mean, you can go to like Marshalls and TJ Maxx and buy little gadgets and make these nice liquor baskets. But experiences are always, I think, like the ones, because everybody shops online and everybody does stuff. And here again, like it's about the mission.
Yeah.
But there are people that really love an auction. I mean, we have events where like they may not make a ton of money, but these people are coming to see what they can get. And
they're fun.
You know, so I mean, like the experience is the way to go.
We had an organization just Monday in their silent auction.
It was online only.
This was a skeet shoot.
Yep.
Online, they had 3 live auction items that were donated. There were 3 deals. But they sold 9 unique trips. One of them sold twice in their silent auction.
It was online only. Yeah.
A skeet shoot.
Yeah.
So the experience is dinner with somebody.
Don't be afraid to put stuff like that in your silent auction.
Yeah.
Awesome. Value means everybody thinks, well, I just don't think it'll bring enough. If you put it out there and you market it right and you set it where people can see it in the silent auction, it will absolutely bring the money.
I think that's a great feedback, Don.
So can I go now the opposite direction and tell you what not to do? Silent auction.
Yes. Hedge trimmers.
And there's always the exception to the rule. Well, that and the photographer that wants to give you a free setting for your family to come get pictures, or the local free dental cleaning, because everybody already has a dentist. Those things where they're just trying to get their name out there, and then they're going to get mad if you don't sell it for a certain amount. Like those things, like people have their own person. People have their hairdresser. People have their dentist. People have their doctor. They have their Botox person, whatever. Like they're not going to buy those items at an auction, at a silent auction at the gala.
Right. So be thoughtful.
You take all that stuff, load it up into one big one item, and call it health and wellness, and
have fun with it. Here you go.
Put it in one deal.
Yeah.
So we used to put it in. We would do a game called Balloon Pop, and it was all our hodgepodge things that we knew people wouldn't buy, and it was helium balloons, and it'd have the little piece of paper inside it. You pop the balloon, and you won a free teeth cleaning.
Yeah.
Sell the balloons for like $20.
That's fun. Okay, good feedback there. Definitely be thoughtful with the silent auction, online auction, synonymous. Okay, this is we had a question about best revenue enhancers for 2022, but Amy, I want to go kind of big picture. You're downloading all the information from 2022. You did a lot of events. MDA still has another event, this week that I'm aware of. So the year's not over with yet. What was something like the best? You're like, okay, this wowed me. I hadn't seen this before, or maybe it's something where we've used it. It underperformed, and oh my goodness, I'm a believer now. Like to hear something like that. Just something that was kind of maybe off the beaten path, or did you get back to your roots, or just kind of give us some feedback there. What worked great?
I mean, we do a lot of the same ones over and over, but I'm going to tell you something we did this year that was new and a little bit of a twist on you guys' golden ticket.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We incorporated it into our wine polls.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yep. So normally we'll get, like 50 bottles of wine and sell them for 20 or $25 or whatever. So we actually would get the 100 bottles of wine and sell them for $100. And we had little golden tickets on them that were cute that we had made. And we did that and then used you guys' golden ticket. That was not a planned question. That legit is That was not
I
an
noticed y'all did
HJ
that.
plug, but it
You
legit
know,
was,
the other-
was the new thing that we did this year.
Mhm.
And actually, I think it was Lisa Kirksey who was on this call that rolled it out at one of her events.
I
and
think I
then
remember
we
that, yeah.
all stole the idea. Yeah.
You know, one of
Awesome.
the things that does too, when you do it that way, it gets, if you've got a law in your state that says, you know, there's got to be value, that's done.
Yeah.
You know, that ticket has value to it because they're getting a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
So
Well, credit where
you know,
credit's due. Thanks, Lisa. That's fantastic. That's awesome. Okay, cool. I love that.
Well, and you're
Yeah.
exactly right, Jason, because they have gotten really funny about not
Awesome.
having raffles, and every state is different. You know, you can't have a game of chance or you can't have a raffle, but as soon as you put,
Mhm.
you get something for
Something
it.
of value,
You got your
yeah.
bottle of wine. Yep.
Cool. And you can get the wine underwritten, obviously donated, and you can also get the item underwritten as well that you're giving away, the golden ticket item or destination.
Yep.
Typically it was Tuscany in this case, because that's the direct connection to the wine, right? Super cool. Awesome. Yeah, and that's interactive. Folks like wine polls.
Yeah, so that was it. I
Folks
mean,
like
and
wine
then
polls.
we did not really, we tried some new things, but I mean, we ended up back with the typical, you know, heads or tails.
Yep.
Last
Champion standing. I know it's a
Hate
real
that.
popular one.
I
Yeah.
just hate heads or tails. I hate it.
I know you do.
But I just hate it. Sorry.
Hey, yeah.
But I'm just, that's just me. That's just
yeah.
me. Just
Hey, if it
saying.
works, why fix it if it ain't
Last
broke?
champion,
Love it.
you know,
But I will say,
I did
we-
Blessed Champion for the first time 2020. I mean 2022. I'd never done it before, and I
Yeah.
did it. Holy
Yeah.
smokes! The deal brought a little cooler,
Yeah.
a Yeti cooler with some stuff. Brings $11,000.
Yeah.
I am completely sold on that. I think,
And a
it's
lot of times with the heads or tails, Amy, you can get and like you said, Jason, with the Last Champion, you can get those things donated or low cost consignment, what have you, for the gift. We donated a lot.
the
of
Vegas
hotel
trip,
stays.
I think, is
Vegas.
what we used. We did the
We
Vegas trip
we
for
used
most
that
of
a
ours.
lot for dozens and dozens, if not more, events this
But
year.
I'll tell you, we put a little twist on ours too, because we learned with heads or tails. I think one of the things that made people start to dislike it
Yeah.
was the people that would, you know, if you were selling Lays or whatever you were selling,
Yeah,
you know, they were selling them. They would buy, you know, $200 worth. And it's like, why do I want to play with my one chance when they have 20 chances? So we just did it as like, everybody in the room stand up. All
Yeah.
right, we're going to give you this opportunity to win the Vegas trip. If you're willing to pay $100, stay standing.
Mhm.
And it's everybody gets one chance. It's a boom, quick, done in like
I love that.
3 minutes.
Everyone gets involved and it's easy. Yep.
Well, and I think that's the deal. Make it where it's worthwhile raising money. You know, I think everybody gets caught up in there. Well, we want to make something affordable for everybody, and we want something for $20. If that's where you're at, if you're doing a spaghetti dinner and the highest donor you've got in the room is, you know, maybe $500, sure, that makes sense. But if you're trying to raise, you know, $500,000, you're not
You
going
open
to
the
get
side gate.
by doing $20 at a pop. So make it worthwhile.
Sorry about that. That was a at home open the side gate comment out of nowhere. My wife, so our whole family has been sick. We got a preschool virus. My wife's a teacher, and so I don't wish that on anyone. We're all home right now, and sorry for the sniffles if there's been any.
Hey.
But I wish health and wellness to everyone this holiday season.
Hey, bro, I didn't mean for that to go over, but it's 1:00.
No, I know. I love it. I love
it's
it.
time, and we've got
A winner.
a winner. Yeah.
Okay, great. This
Um,
is going to be a mystery prize. I hope you're okay with that. We're going to give you an option. We've got a few different things that we want to offer. We've got some wine. We've got the hotel stay, stuff like that. We're going to let you decide. We're going to let the winner decide.
Fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is supposed to be a special prize.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a special prize this week. So definitely want to, put our money where our mouth
Okay.
is.
Well, this week I've got the winner, and here it comes.
All right.
Give a big hand. Beth Friedline.
All right, Beth.
Friedline.
Okay.
Congratulations, Beth.
Awesome.
All right. Beth's the winner. And
Right on, Beth.
we're so thankful for being here. Gosh, thank you
Well,
everyone for
hey.
being here today.
Yeah. I think we could have gone for another hour though. I feel like we could have.
Yeah, well, we actually
Yes,
had
it's
more
fun.
questions. We didn't get them all. We didn't get through.
Yeah,
all
that
of
was
them.
really well. Okay, sorry,
The
Amy.
minute thing, I wasn't a very good minute holding
Sorry.
everybody. to the minute.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jackie.
But
Thank
can
you.
we do this
Sorry.
again?
Yeah, we gotta do it
Yeah,
again.
I think so, Jackie.
Why don't we
because
do it in
got a bunch more
January?
questions.
Why don't we do it in January after we come back? I think it'd be awesome. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the next episode, but what an amazing year. We've gotten some really amazing feedback about the webinar recently, all throughout the year. We're so grateful. 95 episodes in. Can't wait to keep doing it. We're going to take a little hiatus. Everyone enjoy. Have a great holiday with you, your friends, your staff, your family, of course. Amy, can't thank you enough, of course,
Thanks for having me.
for
It's
everything.
fun.
And sorry, we just penciled you in for another one. So
That's all right. I like it.
I think it was really fun. Thanks so much, everyone, for the questions. And share it with someone if you got any value or any joy out of this. Share it with someone in your network or your friend sphere. And we'll see you all again in a couple of weeks. Thanks, Jay. That was awesome. Thanks, Amy.
Merry Christmas,
Happy
everybody.
holidays.
Happy New
Talk
Year.
to y'all soon. All right.
See you
Bye
next
now.
year.
See you, everybody.
See you next year.
Thank you.
Bye.